You are listening to a Fangirls Going Rogue priority transmission.
All team, give it everything you got!
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Tricia Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, Young Cubs, to this amazing priority transmission here with Fangirls Going Rogue. I'm your host, Teresa Delgado, and with me are my co-hosts, Tricia Barr from Fangirl Blog. Girl, I'm exhausted just watching your Instagram and Facebook right now. Like, I don't understand how you're alive.
Yeah, I did a little traveling, horse showing, winning. It was a good 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like nonstop, like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, nonstop 2 weeks. And Parker Barr, that's what we call him. We also call him Peanut Butter. He was grand adult champion.
That's so
5
awesome.
years old. He is amazing.
That's awesome. Well, because of that, you were unable to join us for this amazing press roundtable that we got to do, which is what you guys are going to hear us talk about today. But Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland, she was there with me for this awesome press roundtable. And Sarah, how are you doing today?
I am excited to talk about our chat with a certain foxy lady.
Love that you asked that question, and she like totally played right into it. It was awesome.
I was so fangirling and she was fangirling, and it was oh my God, like Ming-Na Wen. Well, that's who we're talking about, who plays Fennec Shand in the Bad Batch. Oh, she's amazing. We'll get into it. But yeah, it was amazing.
Okay, so before we get into the roundtable, let's talk about the episode that just came out, because the roundtable that we got a chance to attend really centers around this episode, and was a big highlight on Fennec Shand as a character. So what did you guys think of the episode with Fennec and Cad Bane?
I loved it because Fennec Shand, she almost took down Cad Bane, and he's supposed to be the baddest bounty hunter in the entire universe.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And I loved the fact that a lot of things that we've seen Omega do in the previous episodes, like having to get out of sticky situations really by herself, without the Bad Batch, or maybe just one member of the Bad Batch, it has all led up to this episode where she's now captured by Cad Bane and has to just use any methods that she can to get out of this trap. And she does it. She manages to do it, to at least get out of Cad Bane's clutches long enough to figure out how to contact the Bad Batch. Like, I just thought this was amazing as well. And obviously I loved Fennec too, but I really liked that all those previous episodes led into Omega's journey here.
Well, and I'm actually going to piggyback off of that with you, Sarah, that I think I've made it pretty well known, at least on the podcast, that Omega is not my favorite character right now, and that I'm hoping she grows on me. But I will say this episode was one of those pivotal episodes that I'd been waiting for, to have a chance to see Omega come into her own, be driven by her own strength and her own resolve, and actually have a challenge that she has to figure out by herself, and has to show some maturity in the things that she has learned while being with the Bad Batch. And she really did that. She did that in this episode. And I was like, okay, there we go. Like, I think I actually outwardly said it. And I'm just gonna, little side note, if anybody hears a squeaky toy, I got a puppy. So I have to go get that away from her. But I loved it. And I love Fennec. So, there's that too. And I love Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like 1, 2, 3 punch right there. Plus, we got to see some more interesting machinations with the Kaminoans. Lama Su and how, oh my gosh, what are their names? The one Kaminoan is, wants Omega because she's like her friend, but Lama Su just needs her, cloning stuff. We got the whole reveal that Omega is a first generation clone. So basically a sister of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a second. They gave Boba Fett a sister.
Yes.
Number one. But, I think it's interesting that they went there and they're like, yeah, she's a first generation clone. Okay, so Boba Fett has a sister now. Cool. But now we do know that there's 2 sets of bounty hunters. There's the ones being hired to extract and kill, and the ones that are being hired to save.
Right.
So that's also kind of like cool, but also weird.
Yeah, Tricia, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that we got this show that we thought was about 5 dudes, and we just have this episode where we talk about 2 competent female characters.
I know,
doing their own things. So I'm like, woohoo! Ultimately, at the end, they came in. She saved herself and thought it was going to end, and they swooped in at the end. And I thought that's fine, because it was so much more about being competent. No one in the episode walked away with what they wanted, except for the Bad Batch, which is the titular characters of this. They got Omega back and really got to cement that they really want her to be part of their family. Like, that they lost her for a bit and realized how much she meant to them. So that just really cemented them as well, even though they're barely in this episode. And I'm now more convinced, having rewatched the first Fennec Shand episode and then this one, that Hunter's the dad, and I can't think of his
Wrecker?
name. And no, not Wrecker's like the big brother.
Tech.
Tech is the uncle. Echo is the mom.
Oh, Echo's the mom. Why do you say that?
Yeah. Well, they go out on that little mission, and it's Hunter and Echo always does the nurturing things. He's there for specific things, but Hunter's definitely the dad and Echo's like the mom. They even play up in that episode when they first meet Fennec Shand. Echo has to do the thing that the woman usually does, which is kind of sell yourself to, that's the trope, so that the men can achieve their mission. They literally give that to Echo as the trope, where he has to, do that, and then for the good of the cause type thing. But it's definitely shaping up. You see when they reconnect, obviously Hunter's learned a little lesson where he's like, oh, this time I don't say how really scared I am and shake her. I comfort her.
Yes, exactly. I loved that. Also, your point of, all the women that we're talking about. I mean, they have done a good job of surrounding the Bad Batch with female characters, like even Sid, the Trandoshan in Sid's cantina. She's a female. And also that episode where we got to see the characters from the 7th season of the Clone Wars, the 2 ladies who met up.
Trace and Rafa.
Trace and Rafa. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, they're doing a good job of populating the world that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to say that when they announced it, I was like, man, well, why? But now that we're really getting into the show, I'm like, okay, you tricky Star Wars people. I was like, next time, let's not be so tricky.
Speaking of getting into the show, I think there's one other thing we should talk about in this episode, and that is at the end, Omega sees this cloning facility with these like greenish cloned specimens. And I just watched Rise of Skywalker last week, and it looks very similar to Exegol and the cloned Snoke. It's kind of like almost a little bit of a precursor to that.
It looks like a failed cloning facility to me. It looks like, a place they had to abandon, which I think they had said something like that. The question is, why did they have to abandon it? What are those clones of? We may never get an answer to that, but,
Aren't they
good.
Camino
It's like a
ones?
good, creepy kind of element,
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they Camino clones?
I don't know.
I didn't really get a good enough look at them to be able to tell.
Yeah, is that
That's
what
they look like to me.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they look like to me. Like they learned to clone by cloning themselves.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, when it fell on her when she dejected that one. I think that's what that was.
Okay, I'll have to look again. Yeah, interesting.
Speaking of, and you can put this in the outtakes, but apparently there is such a thing as cloning your pet, Tricia.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. No.
I can't remember. There's somebody famous who...
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand.
That's it.
Why would you want to do that?
There's actually a really good episode of 60 Minutes about the cloned polo ponies. So there's a famous... He's like the world champion polo player. He clones his favorite horse.
Wow.
But the weird thing is none of the horses have the same markings. Like they're all bay and white with white markings, but none of their markings are the same. But he thinks that they all play like her. Like they have the same
temperament.
Like drive to play hard and win. And then a lot of people are like, well, that's not fair because you have like the same horses and they're the best horse and whatever. So there's this whole thing about that. But there's a really famous horse, Gem Twist, who was in the Olympics, and he was cloned, and that horse was never as good as. So people are like, was it the situation? Was it just that horse?
Nature versus nurture.
Exactly, which is kind of maybe what we're getting here with Boba and a sister. Like, will having a family make Omega different than Boba Fett, who watched his dad get his head hacked off and has been fending for himself type of situation?
Yeah, that's putting it in perspective there.
Well, Django went down like a chump. Anyway.
Well, I do have one question though.
About cloning pets?
No, about Fennec Shand. I want to know, do we think we're going to see her again in this series?
Oh yeah. There's no way she's dead.
Okay.
No way.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping so too, but.
Well, I mean, she's in the 4th episode, right? And then she's back again. And I think the first 3 episodes sort of establish the Bad Batch, and then she sort of establishes the mystery of who wants her, and she'll continue to be part of that. And I think we'll see. I mean, obviously, Fennec she's got her kind of side where she fends for herself like a fox,
right?
But I think she has a system and a code of honor that's very clear in The Mandalorian. So we're going to see more of that.
Okay.
Do you guys think, just tossing it out there, that we're going to see Fennec meet Boba Fett in this series? I think so too.
Trisha's nodding. Just
yeah.
I mean, come on. Now we know why the boots saved her.
Mm-hmm.
It's
true.
Oh my God. I just put that together. Like Boba Fett
he was watching her back.
Wow. That would make so much sense then. Yeah, we better see him then. Because then it's like the circle is now complete moment if like he meets with Fennec when she has Omega or something like that. Like when she's saving Omega. Right? I don't know. I just think that's cool.
I don't know. It all got really intense in my head there for a second.
Me too.
Y'all know I don't like that. I don't like that place. Let's get out of that place.
Well, it's gonna play well though, because we're gonna see this bit, it's gonna end, and at the end of the year, we're gonna get the Book of Boba Fett, which is done shooting, which is one of the reasons you probably got to talk to Ming-Na, was because she was finally done with all that and had some free time to, get out there and talk to fans. But you guys, tell people who you got to talk to. And
yeah, we were lucky enough to get invited to the Bad Batch press roundtable day that they did last week.
On June 22nd.
Last week.
Yes.
June 22nd. I don't know days. It's summer break. And we had two different roundtables. The first one we attended was with Jennifer Corbett, the head writer, and Brad Rao, the supervising director. And so let's talk about that one first, because that was the first one. The first thing I want to say is we have now done two press events for the Bad Batch. We had the opportunity to do a press conference type thing with Jennifer Corbett, Brad Rao, and Dee Bradley Baker. And that was just kind of like more of your basic press conference where you're just sort of sitting there and getting info. You know, there's not really a lot of interaction or anything. This one was a proper roundtable, which I know we all enjoy so much better because you have that one-on-one time with the talent that you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be a major difference for you guys listening to us talk about this, because we had more personal interaction and really getting to be face-to-face via digital world with the people that we got to talk to. So that was really, really good. I enjoyed that. It was great. It was also really good to see all of our like Star Wars press friends and family. Like we haven't seen each other in 2 years. And so getting to just see everyone. And I had this moment, I'm going to talk about it just really quick, where I'm checking in with everybody. And I don't know how, but I have absorbed like the major things that have happened with like almost everyone. And so I'm like, James Burns, how is this? Mark Newbold, how is this? William, your wedding's coming up. Da, 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 da. And Sarah's like, what? How do you know this? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, because we have to check into hospitality with Disney before we get to go to the actual roundtable Zoom room, right? So we're all like chatting a little bit as the Disney people are like, wow, these guys know each other.
Yeah, I think they were kind of shocked being like, oh, they all know each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
We see each other. Well, we used to see each other a lot.
So I wasn't there, and I really am bummed that I missed kind of, because when I was reading the transcript and looking at the names, I was like, before we talked about this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like all our friends. And I just thought that I was like, oh, it kind of feels like it was just like when we go to a round table at Celebration where they plop like 8 of us down. Mm-hmm. And we're like, okay, who's going to ask the first question and all this stuff. And you're like pointing at each other and all that.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of each other.
That's a really good point. I want to mention this really quick because I think this is important for people to know. The group that was at this roundtable, we're not a competitive press group. We're like a community of fellow press people, fan press people that are supportive of each other and trying to ask different kinds of questions so that we kind of all cover pretty much everything and all the content that everybody wants. And like Tricia was just saying, if we were in person, we would all strategize and we'd be like, okay, you guys ask these, like we'll ask these, to try to make sure that we get the best and most like important information for our listeners as possible. And that happened here too. I mean, it wasn't as much strategy, but like, I know for me personally, I pivoted on a couple of questions, because of questions that other people had already asked and,
right.
That kind of thing. So it's a really collaborative environment, just so that anybody that's listening knows, like, we're not competing with each other. Like, it's just, that's important.
Well, back in the old days when people used to not even say who asked the questions and just want to edit out.
Right. Yes. Right. Well, I do want to say, like, when the embargo date was up on the Friday, I saw a great Twitter thread from Jonna Marie who was seeing what other people's content had put out, and she was listing it all in a thread, which was really nice. I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
So I was pointing people to her Twitter thread. I was like, here, go to this. See everyone.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to say, like, at least on our end, we support everybody's content that they're putting out, and because they're our friends.
Yes.
So my favorite, I just liked James Burns from Jedi News, who I was with him. He was my seatmate for the Rise of Skywalker. No, The Last Jedi. They all ran together screening. yeah, so it was just weird. I was like, oh, he asked the question. So he goes right into Star Wars Resistance characters. Did you talk about bringing them back? Was his question.
You've both worked on Star Wars Resistance, and I know that a lot of the characters there are very, very much younger and wouldn't necessarily have been around at this sort of time. But if some of the older characters, which ones would you like to see within the Bad Batch time frame, or would you most like to bring in?
Ooh, that might be too loaded of a question, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, Resistance was an awesome show with this amazing cast of characters, and our crew working on the show primarily is the same crew, both here at Lucasfilm and overseas as well. And it's interesting how that show and the production of that show has affected what we do as we continue to push forward in the animation process. As far as specific characters, I mean, I'm not going to go into too many details. There is definitely a long amount of time from where we are to where Resistance was. But it's an interesting question.
So it's like that all of us started like in animation, like reporting about animation and wanting to see those threads come back. And of course, we've already seen some little nuggets from Resistance in the first Fennec Shand episode, the little, I don't know, the space dogs. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh, yeah. Where they're from.
Yeah, from Resistance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the little space dogs. So we've already seen some little nods anyway. I mean, the animation style is so different.
Yes.
When you look at the Bad Batch and it's like so detailed, and Star Wars Resistance had
painterly. Yes.
It's definitely different style, but they're bringing things in. So it was neat to see them like, maybe you will see something.
Yeah, I think James actually, you know, how did that play to the room? Like they said, they were saying, I think that might be too loaded a question. And James was like, oh, I know my next article. Like I could see his wheels turning in his head.
He's thinking, I just thought I would just like get like, you'll see some more dogs or something.
Right.
Yeah, we're all going, nailed it.
Yeah.
10.
Exactly. Yeah.
James gets a 10 for that question. When they can't answer, you scored.
Yes. All right. What were your other favorite parts? Because Tricia, you got to, look at this from outside.
My other favorite part was, let's see, the question from Endor Express's David Ye. I think I'm saying that correctly. And he asked.
What I loved about the very beginnings of the show is that you guys dived into the section of the Empire, the galaxy that was just forming up again. What does it mean? Some people are very confused. Can you talk more about the writing of all of that and infusing into the storyline of the Bad Batch? Because we haven't seen this part of the Star Wars galaxy before, and it's really fascinating to me.
It's fun to see it through their eyes because, like we've said before, it's the Batch is a military unit, and they're not used to having to think about anything political or anything beyond that. They're used to getting missions. They go on their missions, they execute them, and then they get new orders. But now that everything has shifted, they've now started to have to ask questions about the Empire, and they're unsure about where they fit in and where they're going. And as a writer, it's fun to sort of explore that turmoil in the galaxy, because there is so much that Batch doesn't know, as we as a viewer having seen what's about to happen. So there's that impending sense of like, they don't really know what they're in for. But it's still about just like the daily struggles of once one government falls and a new regime rises, just sort of how some planets are happy about it because that means there's peace, but they don't realize what kind of peace that is. And it's definitely this storyline and that idea is something that will continue to evolve with the series.
Yeah, and it's also been interesting just from a design standpoint to take things that are very much Republic, like the Regs and their armor and their equipment, and make it all devoid of the interesting individual color. Now they're the face of the bad guy. And we did a lot of work to change the way that the futz works out of their helmet. So they sound almost a little bit less like good guys. It's still D. Bradley Baker performing 1,000 characters. He's so amazing. He's so great. Not only as all the bad men, but all of the regs and anybody you see who's a clone. He's incredible. But if you look really closely, without going too much into detail about it, referencing our second episode on Seleucami, when the Bad Batch make their escape out of the old Western town, there's a lot of shooting going on. But we were very careful that when Hunter is shooting a clone, he shoots a clone in the arm, knocks a blaster out of his hand, shoots him in the leg, knocks him down, maybe punches him out. But none of those guys perished. And that's all very, very intentional. And that's all part of how, just a small look at how our main characters are dealing with this changing empire and seeing their brothers now as the face of the bad guy, not just Crosshair, but all of the regs. And so it's all just interesting, juicy, meaty stuff to get into. And we don't always speak to it, but we try to pack it into every shot, into every frame.
They seem to be doing a little bit of press here broader, and StarWars.com also did an interview with Jennifer Corbett that I wanted to mention. And she says something very similar in there about the challenge of telling the story of a super soldier was, and what can you throw at them that's something that they're not equipped to deal with? That's how the idea of Omega came to be. Soldiers can figure things out, but what they've never had to deal with is a young kid. And so that was kind of neat. But if you get a chance, definitely go to StarWars.com. We'll put the link in the show notes and read that interview with her. I really like her. I mean, obviously everybody's pleasantly surprised by what's happening with the show. It's not what I think anybody expected. So, yay. And I'm glad they're pushing Brad and Jennifer out there, because a lot of people were like, well, Filoni did this and Filoni did that. And I'm like, Filoni's like up in like a different stratosphere now. These are like his ideas. And this has been her show that she's been developing, and he's been kind of, giving her ideas. And, he has a plan, a vision, which is going to play out in the Book of Boba Fett. But, she's the one who's making these calls on the storytelling.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she's getting some recognition.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Teresa, you got to ask a good question.
Yeah, so I want to give my credit where credit's due. Sarah and Richard actually gave me this question to ask because I was struggling for something. So let's listen to the question that I asked and the answer that we got from Brad.
Great. And next up, Teresa Delgado.
You guys. Well, first I just want to say the Bad Batch is more than I thought it was going to be. So that is a good thing. And I can't help but notice that there are similarities and story points between the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch. Reluctant father figure taking on a younger individual that's wanted for their genetic material. Were these similarities a coincidence, or was it something that you guys did intentionally?
The really for us, there are some similarities for sure that roll over. The idea of a found family, especially with grizzled warriors, sort of having parenthood forced upon them and then learning how to deal with that for good and for bad, is just it's just a classic storyline that when we were looking at the Bad Batch, it made sense to go that way really quickly. Not intentional as a symmetrical nod to the Mandalorian necessarily, more so just to create interesting point of view that could get the audience into the series, where you might not always identify as a super soldier or as a clone, but as a family, as a big brother, as a little sister, whatever it might be. It seemed like a natural way to get into the show.
And I think, to ground it in real life, when you see different families on the surface, they all may seem similar or, have similarities, but really when you get into their dynamic and what they're going through, that's where you see the different shades. So I think that's kind of true with Star Wars as well.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting to ask that about the similarities between the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch with this whole kind of found family sort of thing. And I did really like what Brad said.
Me too.
That's in a way to bring people into the series of the show, from this point of view, a perspective that a lot of people can relate to, it's a lot more natural than other things. And I thought it was great that he said that it wasn't intentional. It would just ended up that way with the way that the story progressed and when they were, building their sort of outline for the story. So I know it wasn't intentional, but I think it was, there had to have been somebody going, hey.
Exactly. Yeah, I really loved that answer, and how it makes a whole lot of sense how they were thinking of bringing people in, because you can relate with these characters in a different way. I was even thinking about that, like with Black Widow coming up. She is a trained assassin. Fennec Shand is a trained assassin. Like, how do we get into these characters? And yet we do, because we recognize similarities in them with ourselves. So I liked that a lot. I also want to bring up another question. This nuggets of information that we get from these roundtables are awesome. And Dan Zare just asked about Cad Bane in this press conference. So let's see what Jennifer Corbett had to say about that.
Yeah, we in talking about the first half of the season, and obviously the Kaminoans put this bounty to have Omega return to them, and we knew we wanted to have the Batch interact with Fennec Shand just to see how they end up, because they're still not fully street smart yet. They're still very much soldiers. They don't really know how the galaxy works in different ways, and while Fennec is new to the scene, she's still very dangerous. And to sort of compare that interaction with then later on when the Kaminoans hire an even bigger gun, and just a completely different experience for the Batch, where Hunter was able to get away that first time, but this time no one is going to outdraw Cad Bane. So it's kind of like just a continuation of who this squad's interacting with, and how each interaction, each experience, they're learning something new about other threats that are out there in the world, and how that affects them moving forward.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll say Corey Burton, he's such an amazing, fantastic, decorated actor. We have such a blast working with him. Kind of full stop on that, but also for the design of Cad Bane, we were looking at some designs that had never fully gone into production that were in progress in Clone Wars, both for his look and also for his ship that you see in 109. And it was a lot of fun to go back to those and sort of take them out of the garage and tinker with it and push it and rework it a little bit so that Cad Bane and his ride felt familiar and yet a little bit more nuanced, a little more detailed. But yeah, Corey, his performance just informs all of the animation and a lot of the blocking. He's phenomenal. He's so great.
So I thought that was so cool how they reached into the Clone Wars designs and brought out like this new design for Cad Bane, his new outfit. Like, I love his outfit so much. It looks like those Western shirts with like the buttons down the front and stuff, but it's not. Like, it's just so cool. I think it's awesome. So hearing the genesis of that was great.
Well, and they also kind of reference, like, we didn't really dive into it, but they sort of reference those sort of reels we saw at Celebration, a little bit when they were giving the answer, like talking about, that standoff between
Boba Fett and
Boba Fett. Yeah. And so they kind of mentioned that about taking like some inspiration from that, and, so it's good to know that they're accessing like all of the things that we have that we know about. Well, I don't know if everybody knows about that, but we know about it. So that's cool. But yeah, they referenced that and I was like, okay, cool. I don't have to ask about that.
Yes.
Nothing's wasted. Mm-hmm. We'll find it later on. There's so many things where like different art from like the prequel trilogy got dredged up and put into the sequel trilogy or used in animation later on, ideas. So there's always these bits and pieces that come back and get recycled and turn up somewhere else. It's like, oh, it's a good idea. I can't remember, like remember George Lucas was like Mace, the name Mace Windu or something was in his original draft. And he's like, well, I couldn't use it in the first, but I'll pull him up in the prequel trilogy. I like that name. So, well, I like the best part is when Fennec, at the end of the confrontation, she's knocked Cad Bane's hat off.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a visual. Like she's literally like knocked the man out of his cowboy hat.
That is really cool.
I love it.
Jonah asked a really great question about Crosshair, who is sort of the antagonist from afar right now, but he's going to come back around pretty soon. And we got an answer from Jennifer Corbett.
You know, early on in the development process, we knew that Crosshair was going to be the one who would sort of be the foil to this group and be our main antagonist. But, you know, you bring up a good point, because one of the things we always try to talk about with this series and when the Bad Batch are dealing with the regs is that question of choice. Because with the chips, they didn't really have a say. They're conditioned to follow orders, and with Order 66, we see them execute that without hesitation. So what the regs are going through and what Crosshair is going through is something we continue to explore throughout the season. So we don't want to give too much away, but the discussion of choice is a big topic.
I wonder now, are they going to get the chip out and he's still going to make the same choice?
Ooh, yeah, that's. Woo.
That's
like,
I don't know.
Like they're thinking that he didn't. That they believe, because they all made a different choice.
The Bad Batch, you mean?
Yes, the Bad Batch. They believe that if he didn't have the chip, he would make a different choice. But what if
I don't know if that's true.
What if he's really strong enough of mind that he did make the choice that they take the chip out? Like they think, oh, we're going to take the chip out and everything will be okay. And he's still like, yeah, no, dude, you're wrong. Good soldiers follow orders. Or you're just wrong about we need the Empire.
Wow.
I mean,
wow. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That would be a stab in the gut.
I know. Okay, well, we're going to end talking about this particular part of the roundtable. William Devereaux asked a great question. He asked them if they could say anything to tease the rest of the season. How would they or say it in 2 words? And let's listen to what they had to say.
2 words.
Hold on.
There you go. That's so funny, because I was going to say buckle up. So.
Yeah. You're really limiting us with the 2 words.
Yeah,
do 5 words too, but I figure, don't want to give away too much. Right?
No, we're having so much fun, and it's been great to see, the fan reactions, all your reaction to how this show is coming out. I'll say, if you like where we've gone, I think you're going to really like where we're going.
I just love their reaction.
Yes.
So they're like, 2 words? 2 words? It's like at least give us 5. But I love that both of them said things like buckle up and hold on.
If they give us 5 words, he could have said, hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts. But I do like what Brad did say, if you like where we've gone, you're going to really like where we're going. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
yep. I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. Definitely. So should we move on now to Ming-Na Wen?
Yes. Yeah.
I know, you guys, just if you're new to the show or you don't remember this, Sarah has been like on the Fennec Shand train for a long time. Like you liked this character from The Mandalorian and that. So like, were you just like in your happy place?
I was freaking out. Yes. So I think it was really good that we had the other roundtable first to kind of get into the swing of things. And then all of a sudden we're like put in this room and there's Ming-Na Wen sitting there. And I started to get like giddy and like, I was like, shaking, in a good way. And I had, copy pasted my question, like ready to go, bam, put it in. So mine was the second question. And And so, yeah, so she answered Jenna Marie's question first, but then she couldn't really answer it, unfortunately. So, like Jenna Marie asked, oh, what kind of things did you talk about with, what Dave Filoni and things, for your character? And Ming-Na said she couldn't really say. So then it was my question time, and I had really thought about my questions for Ming-Na, and I had like when I think about questions, I kind of think about the regular questions first, and I write them out just to get them out there, and then I okay, how can I make this a little different sounding? So I mean, she's a fox. It's based on foxes. Foxes are my favorite animal. So I wrapped my question in that. Like, I know that she based a lot of her character on foxes. Well, you know what? Let's just hear me ask her. Hello. Oh my gosh. We're so excited to be here and talking to you. Amazing. And I'm so excited because your character was the one I was most excited for in The Mandalorian and this show because, well, for one thing, foxes are my favorite animal ever.
Oh,
so
that's great. Yeah, so me too now. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, when I heard you were basing your character off that sneaky fox kind of aspect, is there anything that you're doing voice acting wise to kind of continue that foxy attitude in the Bad Batch?
Well, I'm just foxy in general. No, it's interesting because, I watched a lot of videos of foxes, especially Fennec foxes, and there's a slinkiness to their walk, and they're loners, and they listen. The Fennec fox has huge ears, so they're very, very alert and aware. And another thing that I attribute is that like Fennec can read people, or she thought she could read people really well, except for that one time with Toro. But he has no scruples. That's why. That's a whole other thing. But for the voice, I wanted to kind of give a little bit of that quality of her. So there's like a sort of a more elongated, slinky rhythm that, came from the fox. And so when she talks, there's a little bit of an exaggeration and a stretching of words here and there. And whenever she does speak, it's, there's a pointed reason for it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of got into it right there. Because my natural voice is much higher.
Okay, really quick. So I just want to say, I know Sarah like the back of my hand. I know Sarah as well as I know myself. So watching her, and I was watching her video during this, and I was just so excited for her because I could see it coming, oozing out from her heart, out through her mouth, blah, blah, and it was just, it was a glorious moment for me as one of your best friends to be able to be she's so happy. It was so great.
Oh, well, thank you. You can actually see this moment because I put this video on the Skywalking to Neverland YouTube channel. So you can watch me freak out and fangirl, talking to Ming-Na. And what's awesome about Ming-Na Wen was that she was as big a Star Wars fan as everyone in this roundtable. I mean, she mentioned the holiday special, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
and so her answer to me, she was delighted, first of all, that I loved foxes, right? And so that got me giddier. But yeah, she went in and started talking like Fennec Shand. I love when voice actors do that. Yeah, she started getting slinky and waving her hair around. Yes. Moving her shoulders, getting all into it. It was just the most amazing thing. She did some
hair flips. Yep. She did some hair flips.
Again, go see the video. But yes, it was amazing. So yeah, I think by the end of the question, I was just if I was already on cloud 9, I was on cloud 15.
Ming-Na seems like the Vanessa Marshall of.
Oh God, yes.
She's the nerd, the kind of good vibe energy, female nurturer, tough gal.
Bananas in your purse for recording sessions. Yes, 100%. I got those exact same vibes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's Disney royalty, voice of Mulan.
Oh.
She's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Agent May, who is amazing character too. And yeah, like just to see her in person, and she was so into it too, because I've been to press conferences and roundtables like Chris Pine. You know, I was like sitting right next to him in a round table, and I like asked him this really hard hitting question. And I was like, I shouldn't have asked that, because he was like, like he didn't want to answer. I just felt like so stupid. So the fact that
but she was
into it.
She didn't make any of us feel stupid.
No.
Like she loved like everything that we were saying, we were talking about, which was really, really good. And I mean, well, we'll get there. We'll bring it up. But like, there was a really cool moment that involved Lego.
Oh yes,
so
yes, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I loved her answer for your question. So
yes, thank you.
I think that led into my favorite part. That was Mark Newbold from Fantha Tracks.
Wait a minute, your favorite part wasn't my question
or mine.
I'm gonna take your question.
I'm just
it
kidding.
was my favorite part. So my second favorite part. Sorry, my second favorite part. So he asked about third Fennec of Mando era and Fennec of the Bad Batch era, and she got to talk about it, and I love what she said.
Well, I kind of draw from my own. This is what as actors we have to really draw from ourselves and infuse some of our own life experiences and soul to a character to bring them to life. And I know that the 22-year-old me is very different from, me now. But at the same time, I'm still that geek nerd girl that every time I get on a new set and I see new toys and the Star Wars characters, I geek out and freak out like I would if I was a teenager. So those are the elements that I try to bring into the younger Fennec. There's definitely less experience, more ambition, more of a drive to prove who she is and make her mark in the world. So I think her energy and her focus and her tactics might be a little bit more raw and different. And I give her a slightly, like a very slight little pitch change, but not too much, because the difference between her and a seasoned Fennec is in the energy.
Yeah, I think that was a really good answer. Like, I just love.
Oh yeah.
Like, and now I need to go back and watch the episode again, knowing what we know about how she modified her voice to and like close my eyes and listen. I think because I think you'll be able to hear it.
I did watch it right before we recorded, and so I was like kind of listening. It's definitely lower, like she's thinking about how she's modulating and not in her natural voice where she's just like act like it's different because you can sit in a room and think about it. If you think about it, you can listen to your voice and change it. Voice actors do a better job than any of us.
Well, and I think it was important that she did mention that she has done a lot of voice acting work, which I didn't know. And while we were in this press conference, I was looking up her IMDb to see, and I was like, holy moly. Like, I think that's great. I mean, we're talking about someone who's done so much voice acting and in-person acting, like super well-rounded all around to know about the filming processes for all these things and being able to bring that experience into the room. And I don't know. I just thought, I was like, wow, that's awesome.
I agree.
Yeah, and she just mentioned she was doing some recording for some other shows too. Yeah. And I was like, what?
She's like the main female baddie in one of the Marvel Rising series. That was cool to see.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And a bunch of other stuff, but that's the one I've seen. I like was watching and I'm like, wait, that voice sounds familiar. It's Ming-Na Wen. Yes. Yeah. All right. So what else did you like, Tricia?
That was my favorite. You guys can take the rest because you were in the room.
Well, Teresa. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to mention, so with my question, I pivoted. So my original question was going to be about preparing for doing like intense scenes in voice acting versus in live action. But because of Mark's question, and then I was kind of thinking about it, I looked at the room, and the only other, well, I don't remember exactly. There was a couple people, but I didn't see very many, people of color in the room. There's Jonah Marie, and then I think there was maybe one other that David from Indoor Express. And I could be missing out. Obviously I don't know everybody's, biological makeup, but just being really boring and just looking at a screen. And I was like, somebody has got to ask the question. Somebody has to ask the representation question, because this is a big moment, And so I asked this. Hi, it's so nice to meet you and see you. I had a couple of questions, but I decided to go with one that I thought a lot of people might not hit on. What has it meant to you to be in such a large property like Star Wars as an Asian American, and having the opportunity to be a representation of your community in something like Star Wars?
It's always great. It's kind of funny. Jimmy O Yang says, well, it's not really by choice that I'm representing. It's just when you're born looking Asian, it's just going to be an automatic thing. So for me, I'm just grateful that there's been more characters that's been incorporated. We have green aliens, blue aliens, and, what was lacking early on were Asian characters, and now there's been so many in Rogue One, Donnie Yen, and oh my goodness, the other actor, I'm blanking on his name. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm so sorry. I've been doing this all day, so I'm really tired right now. But it's great, and I wrap even Temuera as part of this expansive Asian blanket. I think it's wonderful, and I'm so thankful that the fans like her. And because as a big Star Wars fan myself, it's a gift. So I'm grateful, and I hope that this sort of success story will only encourage them to want to create more Asian characters. And they're not specifically Asian. It's just, have us there repping.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about the response that I got to this is that it was sort of what I expected her to say. And she reminded me of me, because she wasn't answering it in a way of saying, yes, this is great. Like, I'm glad they're including Asian characters, and I'm having this moment and all this stuff. She answered it as somebody who's been Asian her whole life and saying, well, this is just, this is what I look like, and my mom, actually, she told me that she got the feeling that she didn't really like my question. And I was like, no, I don't think that's it. I think it's that, I think she appreciated the opportunity, to talk about it, but also it's not on the front of her mind all the time because she is Asian.
Right.
That's just, she just is, And so in her response, it's like she says that it's not really my choice to be representing. That's just like who I am. But she did mention the fact that there are more opportunities, now, and for her to be voicing, characters that look like her on the screen versus being a voice that is of a Caucasian character or whatever,
Right.
And so I just thought it would be good. I mean, like, I'm not Asian. I'm Latina and Native American. So those are, I don't know what it's like to be in her shoes. And I felt like with everything going on with the, all the AAPI support stuff that's happening right now, that it would be a really good time to ask that question in this forum. And so I wanted to give her a chance to speak on it, especially if she had anything that she wanted to say in regards to, all of that. So I pivoted at the last minute, and I was glad I asked it. And I also was like, okay, well, I need to be the Tricia Barr of this group for a minute and ask the question.
Yeah, actually, that brings up a good point. Tricia, what would you have asked?
What would I have asked Ming-Na?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I feel like you guys all asked really good questions. I usually go into those with like a list, and then I'm kind of like seeing where people are asking, because you always like right before they get to you, the person right in front of you ask the question, like, that was the one I was going to ask.
Yep.
So I don't know. I loved all her, just that how much she's rooting for the character, and did you go into it just thinking you're going to do this one time and be gone, and and you were just like, please, like, Dave Filoni, we went to high school together, or the high school that we both went to, and please let me stay some more in Star Wars. I feel like Dave Filoni never intended to kill her. You don't use someone like that for, and just, they did the whole hair design and went through the whole thing, like
Yeah. I think it's just so lovely that she's now going to be in 3 series, when I was so disappointed after episode 5. And to this day, that's still my least favorite episode of The Mandalorian season 1.
It was kind of like, it felt like a kick in the teeth at the time. It was like,
yes. Yeah.
Okay, I got to sit down here and hope for the best.
I think my disappointment was recorded on an episode of Fangirls.
Yeah, like, they essentially made us think they were Darth Mauling her.
Yeah.
And then and now they're not, which is great.
Well, the interesting part, I think, now is that Fennec Shand the Bad Batch was been in development for a while. It takes a little bit longer to do the animation shows. She was always it wasn't like they did Fennec Shand for The Mandalorian and decided to backfill her into the Bad Batch. She had already been in, that character had already been realized. And so she knew that she was going to be something, just, when she went in The Mandalorian, maybe that was the end. But I think she knew that wasn't going to be the end, because there was, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Nobody dies, really, do they? Yoda got to come back, and Luke got to come back, and Han Solo got cut in half, and he got to be a ghost. So everyone gets to come back. Obi-Wan, there's hope.
There's hope.
Everyone lives.
Well, so we keep on mentioning how Ming-Na Wen is like the biggest Star Wars fan. So I'm just going to play 2 clips of her, and you'll know.
Oh, and then when I got on the set of The Mandalorian and that volume lit up and it was Tatooine with the binary sunset, you should have seen how much I freaked out. I cried. I literally cried. I was so happy. And then I had the AD take a picture of me looking at the binary sunset.
So much.
I just love all your rooms. That's going to be my office. I'm remodeling my home right now, and I'm looking at all your paraphernalia going, oh, okay, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Our rooms. That was so fun. She was referencing our rooms. I think a bunch of us had only been to that press conference where it was a webinar. So you didn't get to see backgrounds of anyone, but this one, she actually got to see all of our backgrounds. So of course, Richard and I are in his office with all his Star Wars collectibles behind him. Teresa's with her kitty, with all your collectibles.
Oh, yeah. That was funny.
So that was pretty fun to hear.
Yeah. And then James Burns at the end, he asked a question about what did she think when she first saw herself as a Lego minifigure? And she hadn't seen it yet. And he had it because he has the sets. They come out on August 1st, but he had the sets and he showed it to her. I thought she was going to lose her mind. She was so excited about the Lego minifigure. I mean, let's just say this. You've made it when you've become a Lego minifigure and you're in a Lego set. So that's pretty exciting. And then he took off her helmet and she was like, but she doesn't have any hair. Yeah. Well, because they didn't give her a hairpiece. They gave her a helmet instead. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if she does get those sets from Lego, which I'm sure James is working on, he said he was working, he'll call his contact and make sure they send her her Lego set. But we can find her a hairpiece. There's tons of hairpieces out there. I'll see if we can find one that has a braid or like a longer ponytail kind of thing. Yeah, I'm sure it's.
She was freaking out. I think James made a new friend.
Yeah,
she tweeted it this week. The minifig. She's like the best minifig. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yay!
So I'm sure some Disney publicity person was like, "Get Ming-Na the minifig."
Yeah,
I just think it was crazy that we talked about Fennec Shand in our last episode as a character discussion, and then it's like, boop, the Force drops her in our lap and says, "Oh, she's coming back."
Yeah, and you know, I hope that because we had this experience, maybe it might open the door for us to get an interview with her, which, you know, we will try, guys. We're trying. Things are just not the way they used to be. Just put it that way.
Very true. Well, we want you all, if you want to like see the whole Ming-Na, video, head to fangirlsgoingrogue.com, where Teresa, you have an article up that has links to some of my articles on skywalking and that video and some of your thoughts as well. So
yeah, you can find everything. And if you want to discuss the episodes of The Bad Batch and Loki, we do our Saturday night discussions at 8 p.m. It's kind of like a regular little group of fun, which I missed last week, but
I missed it too.
I've been missing it.
Teresa's mommy came 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I made my like once a month appearance, and for anybody who cares, when I show up, chaos ensues because I've had to take everything off the rails. It's just like this thing I do.
Your mom's funny because she's like texting me. Wow.
I know, she's texting.
What do you think's this going to happen? I'm like, why don't you ask the group? What do you think's this going to happen? She's so funny. Your mommy's shy. Is she shy?
She can be. Especially with people that she thinks know more than her, and she doesn't want to sound dumb.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know what, though? I've learned from talking about Star Wars that you just kind of have to shoot for the stars, and sometimes you just miss, and sometimes you nail it. So you just never know.
Yeah, so Mom, I know you're listening to this. So shoot for the stars. Or whatever. Also, I think that I'm just gonna say this here. I'm gonna publicly say it so she won't do it again. Don't leave your phone in your bedroom. She knows what I mean.
Older people and cell phones. It's not like my mom tripped and fell, and I was like, "Well, did you call Daddy?" I didn't have my phone. I'm like, "You went on a walk and you didn't take your phone. Like, do I have to like implant a life alert on you so that we can find you?" Like, so it just, oh no, she fell. Somebody go get her up.
My Apple Watch will do that. Yep. If I fall too hard, like it'll. Mm-hmm. And okay, funny story for the outtakes here really quick. So with that, the fall detector, for some reason at a soccer game, I was with two of my student trainers, and we decided to see if we could do like a cheerleader pyramid where they were like on their hands and knees, and then I like got on their, on their back to like make like a pyramid. Cause I'm in my 30s with teenagers making cheerleader pyramids at a soccer game. I don't know why I do the things that I do, but one of them couldn't hold their balance and we all fell. And so I fell off the top of the pyramid, and my watch was like, "We've detected that you've taken a hard fall. We will be calling emergency services in 5, for it. And I was like, no, I'm fine.
I was wondering what it would do when it did that, because I read, that's one of the features of the Apple Watch. That's hilarious. Did you manage to get it in time?
I managed to get it in time. And then also one time we were doing CPR training, and one of my coworkers was doing the CPR compressions. And because of the force from the dummy and her hand and her arm, it triggered the sensor, and like it straight up called EMS. And it was on, we were trying to figure out what was going on.
Oh,
and they were like, do you need police, fire, or EMS? And she was like, oh, bleep. And she just hung up on him. And we were like, dude, they can geo-track you. They know where it came from. They're going to come busting through the door. What?
Just doing compressions on a dummy. It's all good. We're all fine here.
How are you?
How are you? Anyway, all right. Well, with all of that funness, if you guys want to get in touch with us between shows, you can visit us over on fangirlsgoingrogue.com. Like Sarah mentioned, we do have some articles up there with links to the different things that we have been talking about on this show. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FGGoingRogue. Tricia is at Fangirl Cantina. I am at Ice Cold Penguin. Sarah is at Jedi Tink. Sandra is at Geek Chic 9, and Kai is at Yogi Kai.
You can leave us a voicemail 331-21-EWOKS or 331-213-9657, or send us an email, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com.
And you can find us on Facebook. We have our Facebook page, Fangirls Going Rogue, and our Facebook group. So search Facebook for Fangirls Going Rogue, and you can request to join the group, but you must answer the 2 questions that pop up, or we cannot let you in.
And please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews so more people can find us.
So until next time, do. Yub.
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 Yub. Yub.
Okay, well, if we're ready.
We are ready, Miss Priority Transmission.
Do I have to say it again?
Yep.
Just record it once and then clip it.
I like making you say it. And this is going in the... Tricia, you're still muted.
It is.
Okay, she knows.
I feel like we need to do like Foxy Yub Yub.
What the heck was
That's
that?
a fox. Have you heard fox? So I follow foxes of Instagram. Yes, and they like laugh. No, they laugh.
Yeah.
They go like.
Yeah, that's true.
It sounds like a monkey.
You
Or
sound
seal.
like a monkey.
I kind of do a monkey. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it cut you off. It like the Zoom thought you were loud. Do it again.
Zoom thought you were interruption.
Greg's gonna be like, "What the?"
Do it again, but softer.
I can't.
Oh, okay.
It's loud. Like it has to be loud. Anyway, I'll just do my seal.
And we'll fade away.
I would do an otter, but I don't know how they.
You want to know what Parker Barr says?
Yes.
He says, "Brrr."
Wow. All right. So everyone, let's do our sounds. Ready? 1, 2, 3.